Let's break down the new OWASP top 10 for web applications and see what is important, what has changed, why it has changed, and what's important for us to take away from the recent changes. If you are a penetration tester, a bug bounty researcher, an application developer, or working in the IT industry throughout the lifecycle of an application, whether it's in development or cybersecurity, it is important for you to understand the OWASP top 10, understand how and what was the changes that recently have applied to OWASP top 10. It shows how the security postures of applications are evolving. So stay tuned with us as we are discussing the recent changes and the key takeaways from the OWASP top 10 release candidate. After 4 years, OWASP has released the OWASP Top 10 for Web Application 2025, which is still in as a release candidate, meaning that there is still room for improvement. People can share their thoughts. So if you have any comments or if you have any feedback, make sure you share it with them and you contribute to this project. The release candidate basically moves from vulnerabilities to risks and root causes. So basically that's the way and that's the approach that the OWASP was taken in the 2025 release candidate, moving toward more on the root causes and showing the complexity of the environment. Web applications are getting more and more complex as we have more APIs, like more microservices and so on and so forth that we're talking to. So that complexity has gained attention and now is being reflected in the OWASP top 10 as the vulnerabilities or the risks that has been highlighted in the OWASP top 10 is evolving. So let's have a look at the changes in the OWASP top 10. As you can see on the left hand side, you see the OWASP top 10 back in 2021, and in the right hand side we see the OWASP top 10 for 2025, which is the release candidate. Let's see the changes in a nutshell. So as we can see, the broken access control kept the first place still, but we can see that it has now the tense, which is the server-side request forgery, is sort of being combined with the broken access control. You might think about what potentially might be the reason, what relates them together, but if you look at it as SSRF, it's basically also saying that you're not authorized to perform an action, but you still perform that action, and the server is doing some sort of actions which is not authorized to do, and that's why they sort of combined it with the broken access control methods, which are the number one risk in the web applications. Again, given the complexity of the web applications, given how many resources they have access to and communicate with. Cryptographic failure, injection, and insecure design, they go down each by 2 steps. And then they go from, say, cryptographic failure was number 2, now it goes to number 4, and so on and so forth. They're still keeping there. So with the cryptographic failure is still there. We have all kind of injections like SQL, cross-site scripting, LZAP injection, command injection, and all these things, which are all inside this. And then we have insecure design, which basically looks into threat modeling, into the security considerations when the design of the application is ready, what you can prevent from that step. Security misconfiguration now stepped up, coming to the second place, and then we also have vulnerability and outdated components, which has gained a sort of a broader aspect and become software supply chain failures. So it's technically talking about the broader aspect because our applications, as I said, are more complex nowadays, and so they rely more on the various different third-party libraries, various different components that they use, and all those supply chains create a risk for us, right? So we've seen in these recent years lots of cybersecurity attacks or cybersecurity incidents that happen that are a result of a third party or a component that has been failed or has been compromised, or say attackers gain access to a third party, a GitHub, and then they modify the code or they did something. So software supply chain is very important, especially as we're getting into a more and more complex environment with more dependencies to other applications. So Authentication failure, we're still keeping but the name changing from identification authentication failure to authentication. Software data integrity failures, secure logging and monitoring failures, a bit of a change in the name. We're calling it logging and alerting failures, and basically it's because alerting is also important. So that's the core concept. Here the emphasis is on the fact that alerting is as important as logging. So you need to act on the logging. So it's not enough only to log incidents. You need to take some actions. You need to do something for those. Do something based on that information that you log, and then send an alert to SOC or incident response and act on it, right? So it's not just enough for you to log, but you also need to act based on that logging information. And a new category, mishandling of exceptional conditions. So this category comes in as a category where it's discussing what if something goes wrong, right? So what if the system now moves to a state which is not supposed to be there, or which is an exception, right? So what will happen to the system? Will it go to open failure, or how would you handle your errors, right? So how the system will react in case of something unusual happening, are all going to this category, which shows the importance of managing and handling unusual and unexpected scenarios, which again goes back to the complexity of our applications. Okay, so that was a very quick look into the OWASP top 10, what it has provided and what has changed and why it has changed. I'm not going to go deep into all of these vulnerabilities. We will wait for the version to be released, and then I will probably create a longer video understanding to explain all these vulnerabilities in details. But I have videos around how you can detect these concepts, and I'm creating more content around the core concepts that are behind these. So feel free to watch them in the channel. Thanks.